trouble.
From the very beginning, when this popped up at this very moment, we should have known that some dark things would be exposed. From the minute I started following this case, something inside me felt uneasy and disturbed, and I know some of you have felt it too.
He makes her smile.
And stand by you.
And stand by you.
As long as we both shall live.
As long as we both.
You're this monster. So I just want this young, hot girlfriend. Somebody. Everyone hope it works out.
And now to that unnerving moment. Chris Watts explains why he put the Francis family into oil tanks.
So what happened is Chris thinks he's in love and, whatever, he's doing whatever men do. And he's like, I'm in love. This woman was targeting him, conjured together, bound together in order to ritualize his marriage. And I'm not joking. In the other side of the veil, the good versus the bad. Spiritually conjured, sent to Chris to create a circumstance with which to feed off of.
Get you some popcorn, some snacks, grab a drink, and get comfortable. And let's just dive right in. We're going to talk about the darkness in Chris Watts, what he said in his letters about Nicole Kessinger. We're going to talk about all the witchy things, the crystals, the spells, the Kundalini awakening, the new moon, the Paracutan volcano, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and more. We're going to talk about all of the things. Can you watch with an open mind? I know it's different, but I need you to be a little broad-minded, open to suggestions or ideas that might be different than your normal way of thinking. I myself, while making this video, had to force myself to be willing to see things from a different perspective. If you'll allow yourself to be open and accept that maybe it's possible that sometimes actions employed in the belief in magic or rituals can manipulate natural or supernatural beings and forces. If you can accept that, even if only temporarily, you might find this interesting. With that being said, who do we know that's a masterful manipulator? None other than Nicole Lee Kessinger, who single-handedly, well, maybe with the help of the Watts family, convinced this seemingly reliable and responsible, faithful, loyal, devoted, and dedicated husband and father.
Hi guys, say hi Bella. We gotta get you dressed, kid. What Bella's eating. Bella's eating some of the ingredients.
Who no one thought would ever stray, who would never compromise his morals, and certainly would never intentionally do anything to hurt anyone, much less his own family. If I hadn't met Nikki, I would have never kept my family. Chris Watts was mesmerized by his mistress, Nicole Kessinger, who wanted to give him his first son. He was so enamored with Kessinger that he tried to cause his wife Shanann to miscarry their first and only son. Chris Watts said, "All I could feel was now I was free to be with Nikki. Feelings of my love for her was overcoming me. I felt no remorse. The darkness inside me had won. It was still in me though. I thought maybe permanently. I felt swallowed up by this thing inside of me."
Yeah, welcome to the 12 days of Christmas, Lavelle Day, and even though I like to claim that I could probably cook, I can't at all. So I'm gonna let my wife do all the cooking. She's gonna make up some Thrive Bites for us.
And I'm gonna go wash my hands real fast.
Uh-oh. She's gonna leave me here alone.
Her influence and manipulation, I won't say caused, but definitely played a part in Chris Watts' decision to take his beautiful pregnant wife and 2 daughters out of this world. Isn't that crazy?
Wise men say only fools.
How did she have that much influence over him? Many people believe that she zapped him with her supernatural powers. It's actually a pretty popular opinion that Nicole Kessinger was or is a witch, a sorceress, Wiccan, enchantress, a spellbinder.
Why? Why? The reason that he even provided me with that information is because I asked.
We were like dating for like 3 or 4 months.
Like filing for divorce. I don't know if they were putting the house up. I don't even know.
Have you ever paid attention to Nicole Kessinger's hands? I'm not making fun of her.
Like, rekindle the flame. Okay, so try to salvage his relationship as you've been asking him. Yes, and I was like, if you guys work on this, like, I'm out. Because what's the point? Like, I'm not trying to be with somebody that's in another relationship.
I probably would not have noticed it had she not been waving her hands all around the whole time she's talking. But something about her hands just doesn't look normal. To me, they look all crooked, like a witch's hands. This may seem like I'm reaching, it might not be of that much importance, but it's just strange to me that even something that's small and insignificant still has some sort of spiritual meaning, and then every time I research something, it fits perfectly into the role that Kessinger played in this case. In spirituality, long fingers are often associated with heightened intuition, sensitivity, and a strong connection to the emotional realm. People with long fingers are considered to be more intuitive and in tune with their feelings, essentially signifying a deeper connection to the spiritual plane. They are said to be more receptive to psychic experiences due to their heightened sensitivity. Individuals with long fingers are often seen as deeply emotional. In palm reading, long fingers are typically associated with the water element, which represents emotions, intuition, and fluidity. Miss Kessinger also had long toes, which also could indicate intelligence, having leadership skills, creative abilities, emotional sensitivity, and spiritual insight. The ancient Greeks loved long toes. They thought it was physical perfection. They believed that it meant you would have a long life. But other cultures believed that women with long toes were bad-tempered and would control their husbands. And did y'all know that emotions are connected to your toes? Specifically, fear, insecurities, and betrayal. Nicole Kessinger was a geologist. Geologists use techniques from physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and geography to study the Earth's materials, processes, and history. Since some of Earth's materials include minerals, rocks, and crystals, it makes sense that the two worlds might collide. In fact, the first recorded woman mineralogist was imprisoned in France on suspicion of witchcraft. Witches would not be able to do magic in space or another world because their mystical skills depend on the earth. All of the power is actually the power of the earth. Crystals have been used by witches for centuries to focus and direct their spells. They are one of the most popular ingredients in witches' magic. They can be used to help stimulate psychic abilities, attract positive energy, balancing the chakra of the body, and sometimes they're used in love rituals. Some of you might remember that after the events on August 13th, they found a pink rock or some sort of crystal under Bella's bed. Chris Watts said that Nikki had a crystal that she kept with her. She took it everywhere she went. I watched the witch documentary. One of the questions asked of the witches on the show was, how do you know someone is a witch? And one of the ladies' responses was, if she carries a rock or a crystal around on her, she's a witch, whether she actually identifies as one or not. Nicole Kessinger was a lover of flowers, specifically sunflowers. They are known for their loyalty to the sun. which is why their seeds and petals are often used in spells and hexes to harness loyalty and to bind the wheel. The head of the flower literally moves from east to west to follow their life source. Sunflowers can be seen as a symbol for spiritual awakening. Chris Watts spoke of Kessinger making him a special drink every night. He never knew what was in it. Some believe she could have used something called, sometimes referred to as, because of its physical and psychological effects on people. Once this is administered, you won't be able to remember a thing. You will become incredibly agreeable, yet totally coherent. Basically, it completely eliminates your free will.
Really? That's an interesting thought, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if you do.
Just like everything that happened that morning, I don't know, like I try to go back in my head, I'm just like, I didn't want to do this, but I did it. I didn't want to say it, I felt like I had to. I just felt like there was already something in my mind that I was implanted that I was going to do it, and I woke up that morning, it was going to happen, and I had no control of it.
However, this Nikki is entirely different. I'm going to say this. Not all mistresses are this way, by the way. Some mistresses are just young women, older women, selfish people who want what they want, and they want with another person, and that's what they do. Okay, so some mistresses are like that. This mistress of Chris Watts, entirely different. Okay, entirely. And I'm going to say it again. There was a disassociation from the human frame with this mistress, and there was an energy that came with her that went after Chris Watts. That sounds really strange. This was a karmic test between good and evil for Chris Watts, and Shanann allowed herself to be the reflection of that, and I'm truly getting this. It sounds bizarre. Chris had a choice. The mistress, once he accepted that, once he agreed to be with her, the mistress became his downfall. Not because he wanted to kill his wife, because he wanted to get that woman over there. No, this woman in and of herself was not in human form when she went after Chris Watts. She stalked him. She went after him. And I'm really getting that. No offense to anybody out there, but I'm getting that. She put her mind to him. And there's some element of energetic manipulation. Call it whatever you want. I feel she stepped out, someone stepped in, and they went after Chris. It's a binding tie from a past life.
I found a video online where a man talks about what happens if a woman uses her menstrual to create a ritual and then feeds it to the man.
Now, what happens is basically a woman has a desire for a man. She creates a ritual over her menstrual and then clandestinely feeds it to the man. Now, what happens is this interesting properties within the menstrual.
Basically, what he says is the red stuff that comes from your menstrual cycle, it's quite different than the red stuff that flows through your veins. He says the DNA in the red stuff
ends up in the brain of the target and creates an epigenetic effect where it longs to return to the body from where it came.
The woman who has put the red stuff magic
on the man or the woman, they have an endless longing to be with them. They miss them terribly, and they can't get get away from them. But it actually gets more sinister than that. They start developing the personality traits of the individual who put the blood in their food. Now, how you will know about someone that's been done to them, you will notice a deterioration in their health. They just look awful to him. He can't stop contacting her. If he's disconnected from her, he starts, but she's keeping in touch by things like email or occasionally seeing him. He begins to deteriorate something awful.
Chris Watts believed that a deep attached to Nicole Kessinger was controlling him. He also claimed dark things happened at Nikki's house. When asked about specifics, he said, "I will take it to my grave." In letters, Chris Watts has written that from the time he started seeing Nicole Kessinger up to the time of the murder, he felt an evil force was chasing him. Remember when detectives asked Chris Watts to describe when he first met Nicole Kessinger, and he said he felt like he had never been pursued before? He felt like she chased him. And then later he wrote these letters claiming that there was something evil in Nicole, and then it got into him. I bought Sherilyn Cadle's new book because I knew it contained Chris Watts' actual handwritten letters. As soon as I got it out of the mailbox, I went straight to the back of the book to read them. I wanted to share a specific letter where Chris Watts talks about a vision that he had the very first night that he spent in the Weld County Jail. I arrived at Weld County Jail the night of August 15th. I get booked, fingerprinted, and my picture taken, and then escorted by a deputy. I'm standing there, alone in the darkness, wondering if this is it. Is this my normal for the rest of my life? I lay down in the bunk in my turtle suit and just stare off into the darkness. Nothing is adding up, and it feels like none of this can be real. To my astonishment, I look in the front corner of my cell and see two dark figures standing there. I thought, okay, this is my eyes playing tricks on me. So I closed them and opened my eyes again, and yet they are still there. As I focus more intently, I can see one is male and one is female. The male is in a black suit. The female is in a black dress with a Victorian-style hat. Both their wardrobes looked vintage. Their faces were ash-colored. The faces were ash-colored and almost familiar, until the familiar feeling turned into a sure thing. This was my grandfather and my grandmother, on my mom's side. Their faces being unmistakable now, I almost wanted to move closer to them when their eyes opened in unison. Their eyes were as red as like crimson. This eerie feeling came over me, and I had four eyes staring back at me, as if piercing my soul in a bad way. The only problem was that it felt like I was in a trance. I had to keep eye contact. I felt like I needed to go over to the both of them, but all of a sudden something broke the trance. I stopped looking at the pair, looked back again, and the corner of my cell was empty once again. I obviously couldn't sleep much after that event, thinking this type of visit could only get worse if I let my guard down. I laid in this unit for a week until I was moved to a restrictive housing unit, or the hole. This always confused me as to why Chris Watts would see his grandparents in such a dark way, dressed in dark clothing with crimson red eyes. It kind of sounded like he thought his grandparents were spirits. I just couldn't make sense of it until I learned a little bit more about magic and deities. A deity is just a spirit, so it could be pretty much anyone. For witches, a deity is like a mentorship. They seek wisdom and guidance on how to be a better version of themselves, improve their magical practice, or gain advice on situations. It's like a relationship. They turn to them for guidance while they're learning how to do their spell work. And according to Sherilyn Cadle, while Chris and Nikki were camping, Chris Watts said that he could hear Nicole chanting while she was holding up a crystal. And when he later asked her what she was doing, she said she was talking to her grandmother. Heart to heart, soul to soul, love sweet song, she'll make us whole. Heart to heart, soul to soul, love sweet song, she'll make us whole. Heart to soul, love sweet song, she'll make us whole. Heart to soul, love sweet song, she'll make us whole. Soul to soul, love sweet song, she'll make us whole. Witchcraft can be attached to any deity and any religion, basically anything, as long as they work well together. Some witches follow the Christian faith, some work with saints, deities, some work with the Christian, some work with figures that are of the origin of the Christian. I'm not trying to say that Nicole Kessinger is this incredibly powerful witch, but what I am suspecting is that maybe she was dabbling in kitchen witchcraft, which can be as simple as stirring tea with a certain intention, stirring it clockwise to attract something in and counterclockwise to remove something, adding sweetener into the tea to improve a specific circumstance and make it more beneficial to you. Kitchen witchcraft can be extreme, with a ridiculous amount of herbs that have been specifically created and charged at a certain planetary hour in order to add into a particular food, in order to manifest a particular intention that you will then eat in a ritual circumstance. It can be really simple or really, really complex.
Chris thinks he's in love and, whatever, he's doing whatever men do, and he's like, I'm in love, and he's all happy, and it's all of the hormones. Love can be like an addiction. However, in this instance, it can be like a spiritual possession. You have this Nikki girl's family, the mistress. She was deliberately targeting him, and not from a human perspective. I'm trying to get that point across. This is a spiritual possession. She puts herself into a state of, I must have him. He picks that up in a hypnotic state and follows in tandem. Okay? Both. People aren't seeing that. This isn't just a regular guy's goes crazy, murders everybody in the family. This is stepping out of oneself in the human sense, stepping to the side and allowing something to come over the body and to allow you to create something that is chaotic. And in that chaos, the beauty, the innocence, the creativity that is lost is what the people who enjoy chaos will feed on.
I've learned that possession is actually really rare because it takes an incredible amount of energy and a tremendously weak person in order for them to become possessed. So it's really rare. I found this interesting considering the situation. Spells cast with strong emotions are often more powerful and they manifest more strongly if there's more emotion and more energy behind it. If someone casts a spell in a highly emotional state, extreme joy, happiness, sadness, anger, this emotion can help fuel the workings of the spell. If someone casts a spell while having high emotions, they're much more likely to have positive results because their highly emotional state has fueled that working with energy. This is something that can be a positive or a negative. The spell can produce powerful results, but it can also sway workings if that emotion isn't controlled. It's a really fine balance. You need enough emotion to push the working forward, but not too much emotion. If the spellcaster is full of rage and sadness, the spell can essentially adapt itself to fit their needs in the strongest way possible. This is what I suspect happened. Nikki may have been playing around with magic, not knowing what she was doing, maybe not expecting it to work, but because of her situation and her highly emotional state just being completely out of control, this spell adapted itself to fit her needs in the strongest way. She wanted Chris's family gone, and that's exactly what she got. She was upset about not being able to give Chris his first son, angry that this opportunity was being taken away from her. In a twisted way, she got exactly what she wanted. Had Chris gotten away with this, they could have continued their relationship. She wouldn't have had to worry about being a stepmother. She would have had peace with no baby mama drama. And eventually, when she was ready, on her time, she could have had the honor of giving Chris his first son.
Be careful what you wish for. We never fall in love. We never fall in love. We never fall in love.
Get the bird. Get the book.
I want him so much. I can't think about anything else. I don't sleep. He has to leave his wife. He has to leave her now.
Perhaps you might find one better suited.
No, I don't want anyone else. He's all I think about. I want him to want me so much that he can't stand it.
Be careful what you wish for. We never fall in love. We never fall in love. We never fall in love. We never fall in love.
What's that? Some of the tools that I have in the toolbox. I knew I was going to have to do some pumping into rubbers today. That's why I was out so far. What am I doing?
My detective just showed up, but he'll probably want to talk to you. He'd probably, like I said, he might have to call at the bank and see if there's any kind of activity.
Because if there was any sort of action on his cameras, I would have got it. But I have got issues the other week when people were stealing stuff out of like garages and stuff like that.
Nothing for the rest of the day.
Just practice well.
How far along?
15 minutes. Just practice well.
How far along?
15 minutes.
Curious to see, pull the tricks out of my sleeve. All you
Just practice well.
How far along?
15 minutes.
Welcome to the devil's playground. You can tread where demons play. You still can be led where dreamers dance. And promise that is sweet. Welcome to the devil.
What we saw on the screen as Chris Watts swayed back and forth was the preview for an upcoming show. It was released on August 6th, about a week before the... True to AHS form, the teaser featured an array of disturbing images, starting with an hourglass womb incubating an infant, followed by quick shots of skulls, scorpions, explosions, and the satanic symbol. This would be the 8th season, and it would be a crossover between previous seasons 1 and 3, respectively named and Coven. And the main plot from this show was to stop a child from being born.
Is there 1 or 2 babies in my belly? Chris and I are hoping for 1, but my belly feels like there's 2. I need to go see if there's 1 or 2 babies in there. I'm really hoping there's just 1.
I know most of you have already seen this, probably multiple times, but I just wanted to point out that had this story been made into a series by AHS, this could easily serve as a preview to show what happened to this family. A fetus looking to be about 5 months old with the umbilical cord still attached, an explosion in a remote region, a woman in a nightie wearing a respirator mask, the dark water or what could be oil, a fight between good and evil, an incinerator, and an hourglass. Did y'all know that there's some weird symbolism in the company that both Chris and Nicole worked for? In the year 2018, Anadarko produced 666,000 barrels of oil daily. And there's also lots of weird circumstances and strange things that go on in the oil industry. At this point, this video is about 27 minutes long, and I think I'm going to have to make a part 2. What happens in some of my longer videos is once I've added in and taken away over and over, the app that I use for editing starts running really slow, and it just makes it really frustrating trying to edit the video. So we'll work on a part 2, and we'll talk about the Parakeet and Volcano, the Dead Sea Scrolls, all that stuff. But I'm going to add here a couple of videos that I found interesting.
Spiritually conjured, sent to Chris to create a circumstance with which to feed off of. This pregnant woman, complete creative energy in the stomach of a baby, right? The baby's in your stomach. You can't get more creative on earth. There's nothing you can create that's more creative than creating a vessel for a soul to come through. The 2 baby girl daughters, okay? Those 2 baby girls right there, their baby kid energy and their innocence and their beauty and their warmth and their joy and their little kid energy. Take that out of this world and you can feed off of that. So there is behind the scenes things going on ritualistically that are making this a big public event where people can enjoy, not us people, because I find it despicable, as do you, but other people connected to the groups that investigate, so that would be the police, the FBI, I don't know, whichever groups investigate, because people are going to cry, people are going to weep, it's going to outrage the nation, it's going to outrage the neighbors. That energy in its combination, whether you knew the family, it doesn't matter. The energy of that focus is ritualistic. Our energy at our disgust pushes that in, and we begin to, all of us, our energy unites like a big tidal wave, and the people who have adorned themselves in the situation in order to watch, to see it played out, kind of like a sick joke, they enjoy it. And that is truly what I really feel that this circumstance with this couple and what happened and why there's so much confusion between everybody is because this was set into motion a long time ago when Chris Watts was 3 years old. I don't know what the family did, I don't know what happened, but at that point I'm seeing the energy split. Now when I talk about split, the natural energy that people have, children have as they grow, and their connection to source, this was split. Chris became altered in his view of what was around him, his perception, a hypnotic state, and I'm actually getting that. So what happens when someone commits a murder and they don't understand their true motives for it, whether they be what we call self-deluded, spiritually controlled and bound, which I believe is what happened not with Nico. Nico was her protection. Because he was with her, she couldn't be overtaken. I almost feel like the reason the baby was in utero is the other side wanted it to be like a sacrifice of sorts. The two innocent baby daughters and then the baby in utero, sacrificial. But because the utero, the little boy in there was actually of protection, none of that happened. So what they tried to do wasn't accomplished. It wasn't accomplished.
Known to have an adventurous spirit, she otherwise led an ordinary life with the usual ups and downs. It's said she had a fascination with New Age practices. Rumors began swirling that dark magic was somehow part of her life, but was it the truth? Adding to these layers of speculation was the claim that Nicole Kessinger had a spiritual advisor. While having a spiritual advisor is not inherently suspicious, it has fueled rumors that Kessinger was involved in more esoteric and sinister practices. Some have even suggested that she owns a New Age shop where she might have engaged in practices like tarot card reading, crystal healing, and other forms of modern-day mysticism. However, if Kessinger had been involved with such practices, it would not necessarily connect her to something as secretive or sinister as the Ordo Templi Orientis. The OTO is not just another secret society. It has deep roots in dark rituals, arcane knowledge, and a pursuit of power that goes beyond the material world, and enlightenment through unconventional and often taboo means. OTO rituals often involve complex ceremonies designed to invoke spiritual entities. The highest degrees of the OTO are said to grant access to the most powerful rituals and the deepest secrets of the order, knowledge that remains elusive to all but a select few. Rumors have even circulated that there is a secret handshake or some other sign used by OTO members to recognize one another, and that these could be used to exert influence or to protect fellow members from legal scrutiny. Some conspiracy theorists have speculated that such a gesture could have been used to ensure that Nicole Kessinger was not properly investigated by the police, despite her close involvement with Chris Watts. The idea that Nicole's father gave detectives some kind of secret handshake and used his influence to manipulate the investigation into Chris Watts' crimes is nothing more than a conspiracy theory. There is no evidence to support the claim that Kessinger or her father had any connection to the OTO form of power at play, psychological manipulation. This is a form of influence that doesn't require ritual or magic. It simply requires a deep understanding of human behavior and the ability to subtly control the thoughts and actions of others. By suggesting a course of action that aligns with the person's already existing desires or fears, you subtly reinforce those ideas until the person acts on them, believing it was their choice all along. This type of influence can be incredibly powerful and is often used unconsciously by those who are adept at reading people. Nicole Kessinger may not have been a witch or a high priestess of some dark, secret order. She was a woman who made terrible choices that may have contributed to one of the most horrific crimes in recent histories. The failure to thoroughly investigate these dark things that Chris Watts mentioned only adds to the confusion, but the lack of credible evidence should be a reminder to focus on what we know rather than what we fear. I realize that these answers may not be the truth you were hoping for. The truth is much more mundane, but it's also far more tragic. This is only the beginning of a much larger discussion.
Now, his Amor asteroid. That has to do with love. Get an accurate analysis of his chart. I had to leave my emotions out of it. And if I didn't, then I wouldn't be doing a correct analysis of this. So I'm going to move forward. Now, his Amor asteroid. That has to do with love. It conjuncts her sun and her asteroid Asmodeus, 1 degree. So this indicates that he brought her a love, an everyday sort of love, and she had him cornered and trapped because Asmodeus has to do with lust. So this relationship was based on a very strong attraction. And I know that he, wrote her love letters and things like that on certain cards. So that's where this comes from. Now, his Mars conjuncts her Venus 0 degrees. You can't get tighter than that. This is a strong indication of a magnetic pull. And like I said, since that's 0 degrees, very, very strong between these two. It's almost undeniable. I mean, that would be very hard to resist in any circumstance. Now, his Mars also conjuncts her, not only her Venus, but her Dolores asteroid 1 degree, and his Mars is conjuncting Lie and Casanova. So not only are Mars and Venus having the tightest conjunction that you can get, these three asteroids in this mix have to do with lies, because it's conjuncting his Mars, and Mars has extra fire and power to this, and it's at 1 degree, so that's really tight. And it also conjuncts his Casanova at 2 degrees, and Casanova has to do with a sweet-talking ladies' man, or someone who is thrilled by the chase, and it can also do with cheating. Now, conjuncting her Venus and Dolores, I've already explained the Venus part, but Dolores has to do with pain and suffering. So in this relationship, that's what he also brought to her. He brought lies, he brought cheating, and he brought pain and suffering to her. It's you get involved with someone, and then you find out that it's not really what you want, so you keep searching for something that's better, like the grass is greener on the other side. That is what this represents, because Venus has to do with the planet of love, and Eros is similar to Mars. It's like the cousin or sister to Mars, the war planet, battles. So that explains his approach to relationships and love, if that's what you want to call it. But that's what the chart is telling me. So now we have Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system. It's conjuncting her Aphrodite. And Aphrodite has to do with fickle relationships that don't really last a long time, and also a cheating. And it's just, and he found her very attractive in that way. Not because of the fickleness, because that's what happened, because also it's conjuncting her Medea and Sphinx. And Medea has to do with revenge, and Sphinx has to do with hidden secrets, riddles, things that are hidden agendas, that sort of thing going on. And since it's conjuncting his son, that's what she brought to him. She did bring revenge, because she ended up going to the police and spilled everything that went on, and she had a very long interviews with them, and Sphinx, secrets, hidden agendas. And that's conjuncting his son, a very important luminary in the chart. So that's